This
Thank you.
conference will now be recorded.
Evidently, we got somebody else with us. What was her name? Siri? If the record can record that Siri is here as well. Maybe mute our speaker or something. Okay.
Oh, no, let me, I need to unmute Councilor Kennard. I don't know if she's.
Give us just 1 second. Councilor Kennard, we're trying to get the system working correctly. Maybe the other one on top. One to
The other Kennard.
There's two. There you go. No. Maybe muted. Councilor Kennard, do you have yourself muted right now?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Okay. As long as you've got control of it, we were trying to figure out why we couldn't unmute you. So as long as you've got control of it, we're perfectly fine with that. I will call the meeting to order at 9:02 a.m. Let the minutes reflect that Councilor Kennard is joining us by the go-to meeting or whatever that's called by the internet. And then Councilor Roebuck and myself are present. Let the minutes also reflect that Councilor Orpesa is absent. We will go ahead and move forward and start with an approval of the agenda.
Oh, boy, here we go. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda from the meet. Oh, I'm sorry, we're approving the agenda for this meeting and as well as the minutes from April 1st and May 6th meetings.
I have a motion to approve the agenda as given and consideration of minutes of April 1 and April 6. Any changes need to be made to Councilor Kennard, or do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, let's go on into non-action items, informational reports.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Councilors, so just real briefly go over the end of the fiscal year, June 20 GRT. As you see there, we received actual collected $3.2 million. We anticipated 2.9, so that's in our plus of $294,000. When you look at the total fiscal year of what we collected, as you can see there, overall by the June 21st, we collected the 3.2, total is $35 million. So we're kind of continue with a good growth pattern year over year. As you can see here, I just included this estimate of the fiscal year 22 estimate, what we thought for this coming year at 35. So I think that's what we'll use for next year when we start comparing last year to this year moving forward. One of the things that may change and may impact, hopefully on the positive, going into the new year is the new change in the tax law taking into effect today, which requires businesses now to report the change from destination based, from origin to destination. This is some of the information that was been put out by Tax and Revenue Department. Again, a lot of the impact will be on the general services of businesses like the shops in town. And again, this is one of the frequently asked questions. As an example, if the customer purchased an item from my shop and the item will be delivered to the customer's home at a later date, what is the tax? Well, the tax will be assessed based on the location of the delivery. So that's going to be a big change. Professional services, there's no change. That remains at the origin based. For example, a lot of our architects that are based out of Albuquerque, some of them, that's the rate that we pay. Some of the construction services, people that are doing construction here in town, they pay our rate. So that is one of the things that may impact our GRT moving forward.
Go back to that for just a moment. Let me ask a couple questions. So if we do have a construction company in Albuquerque and the work is being done here, it'll be done on our rate, not on theirs as their origin.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And also, what will this do to, does this have any bearing on internet sales, or is this just strictly within?
Well, it's part of the change with the internet sales as well. So that's why I'm saying that we may see a lot more an impact on our GRT, because now that's going to be taken into account.
Now, you may be about to jump into this, but how is Santa Fe going to determine all this stuff and Where's that, how's that going to work, like with internet sales and that kind of stuff? Have they figured all that out yet?
We're hoping they did, but I mean, that's a new system that they just implemented. And that's, I believe, last month I reported that there was a letter sent out by the state that they were cutting short the June collection, the reporting, because of the system itself.
Okay.
So it's all that's all being handled by tax and rev.
All right.
This is just kind of give you all just a heads up of what we may see going into the new fiscal year that will impact our GRT that we rely heavily on.
Chair, I think, I think that as far as the major impact to us, some of these little things like us, little shops doing business, where that's not going to be a huge impact. The huge impact is going to be Amazon, Walmart, the big online players who are already equipped to give the appropriate tax breakdown anyway. So I don't know that how much. I mean, I think that's ultimately it's on the business side. They got to.
The business side, some businesses that are more, kind of up to speed on internet sales. If there's even a local shop that's selling to Santa Fe, the question is, do they have to report the Santa Fe rate if that's where they're delivering their product? But again, that's all handled through the state.
Sure.
Each individual business.
Okay. All right.
Just real quick on the budget calendar, as we noted, I think what we're looking at here, sorry for it shows at the bottom. We're looking at finance is working hard to kind of put together all the final numbers. We anticipate having all of that completed by the 11th. And of course, we'll start putting the final book together on the 14th. We'll review on the 15th and 16th, we'll have the scheduled finance committee meetings. And then we'll distribute it that Friday to the council for the special meeting on July 26th. This is the draft agenda for the finance committee. Some of the items here are required by DFA. For example, we are required to adopt the final budget adjustment resolution for any items. And again, since we just closed yesterday, we're still going over last year's budget, make sure we clean anything up there. We'll have to approve the fourth quarter DFA financial report. And then of course the FY22 resolution. And then we included an update on the American Rescue Plan funds, and as well, we'll just our standard presentation on any changes of the budget.
Okay.
And that's it. As far as any reports, Public Affairs did email all the committee members this morning. Unfortunately, they're tied up with the UFS Festival. They weren't able to. I will pass that along.
I'm kidding. No, I did not expect to see any of them today for sure.
Okay.
Is there management's not here, so I don't want to put anybody in a predicament. I was just sort of wondering, with all the rain and everything, have we got everything settled as to where things are going? Maybe Mr. Mayor, maybe, with some of the stuff with the festival.
I think we've moved inside. The levee that was quote repaired breached again. Karen Sanders and Mike Matthews.
They were flying yesterday.
Yeah, they flew out yesterday morning and took photographs of that. So, that's being worked on.
Are we expecting more rain this weekend?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
The percentages aren't as high, but yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on into this discussion about the budget amendments. Let's start out with, before we get into any that maybe, and I know that we've got two counselors with us, Counselor Stubbs, Counselor Roebuck, and then Counselor Kennard on the phone as well. Are there some changes that staff has found that we need to be looking at for adjustments? Talk about those.
Okay, so let me just real briefly, again, as we're closing the end of the fiscal year, these are some of the things that we're kind of tracking that will be included in the final. For example, and I broke it down by fund, general fund. We do have a emergency management Homeland Security grant. We're only budgeting the revenue side because that grant covers salaries, which were already budgeted. And then, of course, you have on the court, you have some salary adjustments there that were not in the preliminary, but will have to be factored in the final. Human resources, we are doing a classification and compensation study. The fire department, fuel and ambulance contract, those are all recurring items that will have to be included. Previously, when we had last year, the COVID adjustments in all of the budgets, those items were moved over to the fire fund. But actually, they need to be in the general fund because the fire fund is being used for other items such as equipment and other items, operational items. Planning department, we have a leased office space where the agreement has been signed, and now it's just a matter of them moving over within the next 60 to 90 days.
That's questionable.
Okay.
But actually, it's not just the planning division, but it's the entire community development department is moving over. So we're going to be moving over planning and zoning, code enforcement, business license. Everyone is going to be moving over there. And building inspections as well. The situation at the office across the way is fluid. Unfortunately, as part of the demolition, they did find asbestos. And so we're going to have to do a full remediation. That's going to slow down our acquisition.
On the new location?
Yeah. Okay. That's, if you look outside, I think they're still there, but you see some bins that are covered completely at this point, waiting to be hauled off. That is, that's unfortunately bad stuff. It's waiting to be removed.
And of course, we have the zoo project ongoing. That's a PO carryover. And just to kind of give you, there's other POs. We just closed the fiscal year, so there's going to be others that we need to kind of review, and then we may be included in the final budget.
Will this complete the zoo pond project?
Yes, that's part of the entire set aside budget for that project.
Okay.
So this is the funds that were unexpended that need to carry over to finish that project. Some of the other items under special revenue, a new fund had to be created. This is for pursuant to DFA for the American Rescue Plan money. That will be a special set aside fund that will track all of those revenues and expenses related to those funds. The fire fund, of course, there's some PO carryover for PPE and uniforms, a hazmat grant, we have to account for that. And then a cemetery, they had a couple of items that they needed to carry over.
Go back just for a moment, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Cemetery, the community replacement weed controller. Okay, sorry.
And these are all special revenue, so they have their own set aside as well. So they're, that's the reason for the carryover. And we're still reviewing a lot of the POs that were just.
Sorry, can you go back to the first slide? No, one more.
Oh,
Like general fund one.
this,
Oh, yes. So we have a revenue of 59 and then we have a total expense adjustment. And so we're saying that, so is this like all added up and or is that 59, that's revenue?
no, the 59, this is just revenue.
I understand that, but
This is all added up to this.
Okay.
So
that's a separate number.
that's a separate number.
Okay, so we're increasing the staff is increasing their budget expense by 506, but you're also expecting some funds to come over with the carryover?
This will be covered by some of the ending cash balance and from the general.
That's not what I'm asking.
So the carryover,
I-
this carryover here is the purchase order carryover. It's the expense side.
Okay,
And that's what it is.
but there wasn't money allocated.
The money that was allocated is already within the ending cash balance
Okay,
because it wasn't spent, so it stays there. So that's part of what's covering that.
sure. It was, but yes,
And I think sometimes the confusion is where they think that when we say PO carryover, we don't necessarily put a revenue carryover here
right.
because the money's already there.
Right, so what's happening is that this is,
To put that number in revenue
Right,
as
sure.
well, you're going.
I guess I understand that. So when we looked at the preliminary budget and we had and I don't have the budget in front of me, but when we looked at the preliminary budget and we had an ending cash balance, that cash wasn't included in that. Is that correct? Correct.
No, it wasn't included because we didn't know if
I
that,
thought we might have spent it by.
that's right.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Okay, that's what I want to know. So effectively, that's a wash.
Right.
Because when you say ending cash balance, this is not new money that we're budgeting.
That's right.
And it was assumed that in the other budget, in the preliminary budget, that it already would have been spent by now.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
And again, that's why you're going to probably see a lot more POs carrying over. Some adjustments on some and some are not on others.
I guess in my mind, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see what's an actual increase versus what's not really an increase for the budget wise. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Right.
What's actually new dollars that we're spending versus what's something that is just an accounting issue?
And that's what we'll try to identify a little bit better at when we
Got it.
put a final report. So moving on, revenue and the enterprise fund, as you can see, these are leftover grants. Now that we have a signed agreement with the county, that is the 2.6. We already set aside we have a PO for the engineering side of it. This is the construction side of it. So we'll account for all of it, on both sides, the revenue and the expense. We have a water trust board loan of $700,000. And then we have the Mountain View Middle School of $500,000 that infrastructure talked about. And those will be accounted for in the revenue. With the expenditure, as you can see, the Edgewater Water Line project is 1.1, and we're only getting 750. So that will be our local match, is that difference there. And then the Mountain View Middle School for $500,000.
So let me just take the Mountain View for just a moment. For instance, if that project ends up costing $550,000, we'll be getting a reimbursement as well from them on that 50.
Yes, that is
So
the
it's
expectation.
going to be a dollar for dollar on that.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. And we'll come back and adjust especially the expenditure line.
Just wanted to make sure there was clarity on that, because that's a benefit to them, not to the city necessarily. So I wanted to make sure. Okay.
And so far, those are some of the items that we have, councilors. And I'll just stand for any questions.
Any questions on any of this? Councilor Kennard, any questions, comments?
No, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Matt, yes, I'll recognize Councilor Stubb. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Juan, I'm not sure that I understand. Back to the slide that you showed with the difference that's coming up. Is today the first?
Yes.
Today, thank you. With the adjustment from the DFA or not DFA, I'm sorry, Tax and Rev's going to make, it was one of your early slides there. When we're talking about the change in professional services going to the destination, whatever that's called, have we looked at how that's going to affect us in revenue loss? Are there enough professional service businesses within Roswell that are now or have been paying tax here but are now going to be sourcing that tax out? Have we analyzed that at all?
Well, in regards to professional services, as you can see on that category, there is no change. It remains always origin based.
Okay, then which one am I thinking about?
The big change was on the general
The general
services,
services.
tangible personal property and that sort of activity.
Okay, sorry, yeah. Then,
So
Yes.
what are in-person professional services? Is that like getting your haircut?
You know, I'm not certain what the definition is of impersonal professional services.
Doctor, maybe?
It could be those activities.
A doctor?
the doctor's not going to source out.
Well, I know, but it's, what would that mean?
So my question is, those that have been
Not
paying
not
tax,
typically. I said, it's theoretically possible, though.
but not-
I am trying to understand what they mean by that, so that's why I'm saying.
well, then you ask the question. Never.
Okay.
I can certainly do a little bit more research on that definition of in-person to see exactly what those type of businesses are, and to try to answer the question of how is that going to impact us?
Which is probably would be negligible. But so a in-person professional service, I would take the meaning would be service that happens where like a doctor's visit or something along those lines, where versus an architect who
But-
is.
The difference is though, is that there's no tax. Yes, that's Mr. Mayor. Let me.
I was just going to say, we're really going to have to wait till September to really see what this looks like. Because I understand the questions. It's not a new question. It's been asked about other communities. Hobbs, I know, it's raised this issue a great deal about oil field activities. And to a certain degree, we're stuck with whatever Tax and Rev decides. Unless we get into litigation, we're going to be stuck with them doing whatever. So these are legitimate questions, but I don't think we'll have a real clue as to what things are shaping up until we see that first, that September payment, because that'll be the first one under this new standard. It'll be for the month of July. So I don't mean to say these aren't legitimate. I just think there's no way that this body can come up with any real answers. And our staff they can do the best they can and try and anticipate, but we're at their mercy.
Okay. Well, we had discussed, that's one, to let council know if there are any counselors that have things that they would like to see adjusted in the budget. Staff has got to have time to identify. One thing I think that's always frustrated me for years, and I know y'all understand, is getting a full budget through finance committee. You get a preliminary budget through finance committee, you get a complete budget, then you get to council ready to a meeting that should last 5 minutes, approving a budget, and then major expenditures being requested to be changed. And then, but a lot of times we don't understand that for every dollar that you add to the budget, you got to take from somewhere and fix or change your projections. You've got to do one of those. So I'm trying to ward off as much of that as possible. So I wanted to give the opportunity if any counselors have anything within the current proposed budget that should be changed or added to, give that opportunity. So let me start with Counselor Kendrick since she's on the phone here. Counselor, do you have anything that you're looking to propose for a change or amending within the preliminary going forward to the final?
No, sir, I have nothing.
Okay, all right. Do you have anything or any thoughts on that?
You're still talking to me, right? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you don't get to see my face. I'm sorry. You may be looking at the back of my head because I got my chair turned here.
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I was going to Counselor Roebuck. Thank you, Counselor Kenner. If there's anything that you see that needs to be added, that you're desiring to see added going forward, we need to have time to discuss and determine where we're going to find those areas and put those in. It's going to have to go through council, and I don't want these decisions made at a council meeting at the very last moment.
And with all due respect, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but that's certainly the purview of any counselor if they wanted to bring something to.
Absolutely, it is the privy of any counselor to do so. I think it's
privy of any other counselor to call the question. I don't think that. I think that we need to be careful if we're asking. We need to be careful about how we say what what our goals are, because we can do those things. And I don't want to step on the rights of
let me stop you for just a second as chair and just say, I don't think anything is being proposed of the dishonesty or improper from within this meeting. I don't think that it is improper at all to ask any counselor who has any project or any desire to see something added to the budget to come forth early enough for council. I feel I've seen in times past, counselors wait and we get to the ounce of surprise. And then me as a counselor being forced into a situation of having to add $1 million into a budget, $750,000 into a budget in a meeting when we're on a time crunch to be able to do that. I don't like being put on that spot. I want the ability to have the study done and know what we're looking at. So that's what I'm asking. Any counselor has the ability to wait till the 11th hour and add to or try to. But I think that the respectful thing would be for any counselor to
certainly if you want something to get passed, it makes a lot more sense. I hope that we never get forced in the 11th hour to $1 million budget amendment.
We have been. We have been before. So that's what I'm saying. Don't want to be put in those predicaments again. So I just wanted to give each counselor the opportunity to come forward. And if they have anything to share, which I don't know those things. I don't know. I don't talk to all the counselors every day, so I don't know. But if there is any, certainly you're here because you're part of the committee.
Right.
Counselor Stubbs is here. The mayor's here, but other counselors are not. So I would assume that would mean we have other counselors that either don't have projects that they're wishing to add to the budget, or they don't have concerns with the proper budget, or like you said, they're just going to wait at the last moment to share.
I think if the council wants to make it procedure to bring those amendments to this committee, we should make that explicit to all the counselors.
In all the years that I've been on the council, I think it's sort of been an understood thing to try.
I've been on the council for 3.5. It's not as many as you have, but it's not explicit. Explicit means written out. It's a policy that we've talked about and agreed.
Okay, well, Councilor Roebuck, I'm not going to, it's okay, but I'm not going to get into it because it's really philosophical is what we're dealing with here.
Sure.
So all I'm saying is I'm giving people the opportunity. I'm not saying there's a policy saying it has to be. I'm giving people an opportunity. So all I'm doing this morning, giving people an opportunity. We're an open council, we're an open government.
Yes.
Want to do things openly, give people the opportunity to bring any concerns with this budget for us. That's all, that's really all it is.
Okay. As you know, I have asked staff to look into the possibility of making an amendment to the budget to make an investment into the pool.
Okay.
They're aware of it. Staff, I believe, Joe wasn't here, yeah. I believe that the staff over there is putting together some numbers for council to look at that we can consider if we think it's worth it in this budget to fix some of the problems we have over there with shade. It's a very used facility right now, and it's lacking, extremely lacking in usable shade. So.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wanting to make sure that staff, and I think, and I was aware of that. You had shared that with staff, and from my understanding, I think staff is looking into that one. I wanted to make sure that any counselor who had any other thoughts or concerns that maybe are not making those communications known to staff, that we've got that avenue to be able to, if they feel like that they need to share it through a committee or something, to have that ability to do so.
Absolutely.
Councilor Stubbs, do you have anything that you saw that?
No, except I would like to say thank you, Mr. Chair, that after we approved the preliminary budget, Jamie and Juan were so kind to take quite a bit of time and sit with me page by page with some of the questions and concerns that I had. And so I'm very appreciative that they did that and probably incorporated some, not everything, but again, I appreciate the time they took. So I agree with what you're saying, is to try to get those things done ahead of time.
Absolutely. We've seen situations in the past where we thought we've had a good budget moving forward, and then at the 11th hour, we get a major project dumped in, and before we know it, council's approving something, and we end up with a product that wasn't what it really should have been if we'd have gone through, had that opportunity to, what you said, approach staff early enough to let them know and work through that process to get the information together. So that's the spirit around bringing this to the table today. And also when we have our special meeting later on this month to give that final recommendation to council from this committee, we'll give opportunity once again to counselors if anyone is foreseeing any changes, so that will give staff an entire week to be able to work on just what you said, finding those numbers, determining whether or not this is a good potential thing or not, to bring a recommendation back to full council where the vote will actually take place, and we'll determine at that point. Yes. All right, just trying to streamline things the best we can. It's a non-action item. It's mainly just for discussion to see where we are on those projects. So, okay. Is there anything else you have? Mr. Mayor?
I will be the broken record and stress again, this is a final budget, but it's one in great flux. It's almost preliminary because of the changes that are occurring. The tax, the internet gross receipts issue that I mentioned earlier, we really won't know the full effect until much after September.
But it could be a game changer.
It could be a game changer. And then Mr. Fuentes has had me sign some of the initial documents relating to the American Rescue Act, which tentatively, correct me if I get this wrong, 11.7 million. What is that money usable for? How would we have to handle that? Maintain staff is still sorting through all this. There's a lot of minefields. So my point is that I fully expect a major adjustment effort in the latter part of this calendar year. I think November timeframe, that's a guesstimate on my part, but I think November, we're going to have to go back and look at some major changes. And so our finance folks are going to do a lot more work.
And let me say also, I think that's also part of the beauty of every month, looking at budget adjustment, keeping things, instead of the traditional way we used to do things is at a mid-year budget. If we see some major shifts and trend in that, we're going to be able to have that flexibility to do things. And there may be some projects that maybe I'm looking at, but I'm sort of holding off on right now because, I feel like maybe we've got a full plate with our roads and those things that you've been looking at as chair of infrastructure and looking at these things that maybe in a few months I'll be more comfortable of looking at considering, and we can do that through budget adjustment as well.
Well, on that note, the road repair effort from this race and storms is going to be extensive. And Council Roebuck, I mean, infrastructure is going to have to look at some major work. I know they're trying to patch potholes and they're having trouble getting up that hold because they're still wet. And I mean, it's all over town. So that's going to be a significant increase. The question is, do we have the funds to cover it? And if not, where will they come from?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Joe, if you could just start bringing the crystal ball to the finance committee meetings this way.
I can bring it forward, but nothing else.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Councilor Kennard, one more time, just anything that you'd like to add or anything?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to the resolution authorizing the disposal of the certain surplus personal property.
This is just our regular monthly resolution. It includes the backhoe that was traded in from the cemetery. We just need to do the proper stuff for that. You're going to see in this one and in next one, there's going to be a lot of the stuff that's going to come out of the green estate that'll start running through this. And then we have Exhibit A and B items.
You have that. Oh, that's not in your PowerPoint.
And just so you know, the 4 fire trucks, the 4 vehicles from the fire department that we stole brought $42,800. So we're making some money off those things. We had to pause our auction for just a little while. Janie was working diligently to figure out our tax issue and all that stuff with this new tax law, and she got all that figured out. So we will have stuff back on the website today.
I wonder how many people in this room knows what a hope chest is. Anybody? You know what a hope chest is?
I'm still hoping.
I didn't know if people still did. My wife, when we married, she had a hope chest and she did it the old fashioned way. She had china in it and she had different things that she had been putting away, getting ready for her Prince Charming to come in.
and then you came.
I'm just sort of interested in trying to wonder, I'd love to be a fly on the wall and figure out why on earth the city of Roswell owns a hope chest, but anyway, okay.
It's donated.
Yeah, it's the stuff in the library. But there are several items in that house that are antiques. What we will be doing is, I think it's July 18th, we're going to have the house open for an hour or two so people can come and look at these items and stuff.
Good.
And then we'll do that as we list items on there.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Okay, any discussion? I'll entertain a motion. Consent's fine.
Consent's fine. We'll try to
Yes, sir.
consent again. Okay. Then, Mr. Chair, I move that we recommend to full council to the consent agenda, resolution 21XX sale of certain surplus personal property.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, janitorial custodial services.
Mr. Chairman, councilors, we're asking that you consider the recommendation for the approval of scope of work for RFP -22-003 janitorial custodial services. A little bit of background, we're wanting to put a pool of contractors together for custodial services for the departments and facilities that do not have an on-staff custodian. The funding will be provided by each department's annual approved budget. The attorney has reviewed the scope of work and approved it. And we're recommending that you approve our scope of work. So we're trying to get it on the July 18th council, just for time's sake, so we could get it out there for the new year, fiscal year. 18th, I'm sorry, July 18th. Sorry.
Yeah, we're meeting on the 8th.
Sorry, maybe it's a typo.
Okay. Any questions, discussion from committee?
One more general question on this thing. I think we've been doing these kind of scope of work pools, I don't know, for about a year now. We've been kind of bringing these in. It would be nice at some point in the next, I don't know, 3-6 months, there's nothing urgent, but it would be nice to say, okay, we picked up this strategy and just kind of document how this strategy has benefited us. There's nothing extensive. I think it would be good, especially if staff really likes this and wants to continue this direction, just to make sure that council's up to speed with the thinking of staff and this, so that we can see this stuff and feel, and I personally feel very confident about it. I'm not challenging in any way, but I think it would be good just to say, hey, we've kind of changed the strategy, the way we're doing these RFPs. Here's the reason why we've done this. We've been doing it for about a year now. This is how it's been successful. And because I think that I don't want to get into a place where we don't have a good answer for council if they say, why are we doing it this way? So because it is, and it's a little bit taking power out of the council's hand and putting in staff, which I'm okay with. Again, I think this is a great thing, but I want to make sure that we just stay really on top of it and be able to have a good answer about why we're doing it this way. So that's my only comment. Thank you, Jack.
Councilor Kennard?
No, sir, I don't have anything to add.
Mr. Chair, my correction was, it is to go to the July 8th council, but we're wanting, so we would be able to post it July 18th. I apologize for that.
So you would be able to post when?
July 18th.
Okay.
It will be posted by July 18th, and then once it's been received, then the recommendation will go to legal and then back to full council in August.
Yes.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. When should we foresee this moving to its completion? So in August is what we'll be looking at. So after today, this will go out of our hands. It'll move forward, and we'll see this coming back through legal.
Goes to council next week, and then it goes to the posting process, and then legal for full recommendation, and then back to council.
Okay. Makes sense? Okay. All right. I will entertain a motion.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we refer to the full council recommendation to approve the scope of work for RFP 22-003 janitorial/custodial services. Do you want that consent or not?
I'd say there's probably going to be some questions on this.
Okay.
Let's put it to full
To
council.
full council.
Well, I mean, to regular council.
Second.
And we have a second. All right, any discussion? We have a motion and a second that we send to full council at our next meeting. The recommendation to approve the scope of work for RFP -22-003. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. All right, public participation. Nothing. All right. Hope you're doing well. Okay. Anyone else have anything? Mr. Conley?
Larry Conley, 2815 in Cantal. My question, the mayor kind of answered it. I know that we've filed the paperwork up Santa Fe for the money from the feds, the big money. And I heard the amount from the mayor. Now, do you have an educated guess when the state might release that money?
Mr. Chair, so when the paperwork was submitted, we received an automatic email back that they will notify us within 10 days when we should get at least either half of the allocation, but we won't know until then. So everybody had until, I believe today was the deadline to submit all the paperwork. So all the entities are submitting their paperwork and then the state will process it and let us notify us within 10 days.
Great. Mountain View came up. I would like to correct one thing. It won't really apply fiscal year 22, probably coming 23, but that we will gain, city will gain
Sale of water. Yeah.
sell of water.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
I don't know how much water they use, but
And on that note, there may be additional customers who want to tap into that line that's going out to Mountain View. That's speculation on my part. Nothing certain.
that's all I have.
We do have our water director here, so
Yes, sir.
we'll receive that.
That would help the school definitely because rainwater, whenever they go down sometimes for long periods of time, sometimes a few days at a time.
There have been times they've had to cancel school.
They cancel school several times, so they lose that time that they have to make their later on. It gives them better fire protection. We'll be tied up with 42, tap directly out with them, so
The pressure.
fire protection, irrigation, everything. So
Okay.
we're pretty blessed about keeping everybody in service.
We're more than glad to sell water.
We're glad to sell water.
Yes, sir.
No.
Okay. All right. Anything else for staff? Anything? All right. Well, let's call this meeting to close at 9:44 a.m. Counselor Kennard, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, everyone.
Where's Shan?